Okay, so chapter 15, apologies. That apologies are really important in terms of making peace because they are a concrete step that we take, and people recognize that, oh, any ways that I was hurt by this person wants to wipe the slate clean, wants to go back to a good relationship, a peaceful relationship. And if we think about ways that our hearts have been at war at any point in our lives, we might feel prompted to apologize to anybody that we realize, oh, this person would have a reason for being angry with me, for how I treated them, what I said, what I did, even if it was years ago. So it's an interesting exercise to do what they're suggesting here, to think back in our lives. And I think for many of us, times when we've really mistreated someone else are probably pretty far back in our history. But, I think of siblings, for instance. They're often people with whom we have ongoing misunderstandings that can last a lifetime. We can end those. We just have to say, oh, okay, I don't want any longer to be at war with this person. And if it's long enough ago, then you have to deal with, well, they're not alive anymore. You can still apologize because you can, you do anyway. You talk to people in your mind, whether they're with you or not. So a parent or an older family figure who is no longer alive, or a younger one, age doesn't make any difference. You can either, have a conversation in your head with that person and tell them, just as you would if they were alive and you were sitting across from each other, how you regret what you did and asking for forgiveness. And of course, the advantage of asking someone who's no longer in this physical dimension for forgiveness is they've already forgiven you. Because, once people get out of the body and are in a more spiritual dimension, non-physical, they realize that that's part of becoming non-physical, is realizing that, okay, any offenses have gone away. There's no reason for them anymore. They only exist in the physical dimension. So anybody who has passed on has already forgiven you, but you still need to ask for forgiveness, most likely. And you will know because you will feel peaceful after you do that. You can write it, you can say it, you can record it, you can do it any way you want. But it is still helpful to you to have realized, okay, I don't feel good about what I said to that person or did to that person or treated that person. And I really would like to dissolve any resentment that remains. It's easier in one way if they're still in this physical realm, and harder in another way because they may decide, oh, I don't think I want to forgive. In which case, once you have asked for forgiveness, you don't need to do anything else. Then the ball's in their park, on their side. It's up to them to reply. You don't have to still feel guilty. So, can anyone think of any situation where they kind of wish they maybe had treated somebody more considerately, more kindly? And, you feel like, I'm really sorry that I did that. I'd like to be forgiven. I can think of a few people over my lifetime. Certainly, one of my siblings I never got along with. It took me decades to forgive my mother. I have done that and asked her forgiveness, but it took me a long time. And I had to realize what her problems had been, what she was struggling with at the time that I was a small child, besides me. And, she had been struggling with things. And when I realized it and understood, it was very interesting. My anger went away at that moment. And she had already passed on, so I know that she has forgiven me. I can think of a couple of students that I found really difficult to deal with. And I tried to be kind, but I could have been better. I can think of a couple of people in organizations that I was leading that I could have been kinder to them. And I wish I had been. I'm not perfect by any means. My guess is that if you think about it, reflect on it, you'll probably, have a small number of people that you weren't the kindest possible, as kind as you could have been with. And it is helpful to creating deeper peace inside ourselves if we go through the process of apology, even if it's years later. And like I said, you can write it, you don't have to send it. But in terms of being at peace with ourselves, it's helpful to do that. And if you're following with the story, Lou and Carol, on the drive back to Camp Moriah for the third workshop day, apologized to each other for ways that, they saw each other in their marriage. And marriage is a ripe relationship.
Yeah. I really identify with Carol, but not just in marriage, pretty much everything.
Yeah, right.
I was taught that I was not to be selfish.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how
to be selfless? And I'm like, wait a minute. All that time, I had things to say, but because they were selfish, I didn't say them.
Because they were about you and your needs. Yes.
Right. So
me too.
I ended up pretty unhappy over being pushed into a box. And I wasn't pushed into the box. I walked straight into it and slammed the door. So,
Yep.
So yeah, I really identify with Carol.
Yeah, I agree. I did too. And Carol's not the only one in the story. Rhea, who hasn't
Right.
said much, is another one who has basically, played the same role in life based on what she was taught as a child. And women very often have been taught that. And it's true that thinking selfishly is not a good thing to do, but the way that it was defined for us was not correct.
Right. It's not selfish to want my needs met.
Exactly. Our needs have to be met, or we can't give if we have nothing to give from. So yeah, it needs a whole different level of awareness to realize that being unselfish and in a positive way means we have to respect our own needs, and we have to love ourselves, and we have to forgive ourselves.
Right. I had to get to the point where I could say, okay, I'm not going to be selfless anymore. I'm going to be self more. Self more doesn't mean that I'm mean to people or that I've changed my character, which is always going to be a caring and kind as possible person.
Right.
But it means that in order to be strong enough to have the energy to do those things, I have to take care of myself.
Right.
So, and I think that is what Carol is saying. When she needed help, she got it from Lou, but then her response was, well, as a preacher's daughter, her response was to, from then on, give in to whatever was going on in their lives that he felt was important.
Right.
I actually identified with that with Lou.
Interesting.
More so than Carol.
Okay, tell us.
Being a single parent from high school, my role was to provide. Mm-hmm. And I was always told that. And I couldn't think of my needs because I had to think of the needs of my child. And I had to provide and I had to work. And I realized later when I was wondering what happened to my children walked away from me, basically, emotionally. And I couldn't understand why. And I would always point out what I did for them. This sacrifice. I got you braces. You went to the best school. Everything were dutiful things. And what I provided, the home I made. And I couldn't understand what they were talking about. Because like Lou, I was so busy playing the role of mother and father. There was no emotions. I didn't ask them how they felt. Well, nobody asked me how I felt, so that language really wasn't there.
Right.
And I came from a family of achievement. So like Lou, I expect you to do the right things. I expect you to make me look good. It's a good parent that I didn't fail, being a teenage parent. And it took up into a couple of years ago, because even when I came to Chapel Hill 3 years ago, I was disconnected from my children. Mm-hmm. And it's been healed because I get it. I get that you have to be more than a provider. And that's what I held myself up as. So mine came a lot from Lou. And
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm realizing.
So that was a role.
Yeah.
It wasn't feeling. It was like, Lou, I went to work every day and I brought the money home and you got a car and I provided you with all of these things.
Interesting. Because I, like Lisa, had grown up and took on the role that Carol had. And that's the role I had lived for a bunch of years. So I, but what you just said made me realize, oh, Lou also had to deprive himself of his feelings.
Because the household, being a mother, the mother part of me was secondary.
Yeah.
Because I had to provide for us. And that's why it was more of Lou with the pants. I wore the pants. Gotcha. And then when they got to a certain age, I mean, once you could push that button, you're doing your own laundry. Then it became teaching them to be responsible, because I couldn't work and be responsible for the house. I expect you to clean up. So a lot of those other duties would transfer to them very young.
Right.
Because my role was Lou's role.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm realizing that the way they chose their characters, they really did a good job of presenting everybody with a role model of some kind.
Yeah. How you could disconnect and don't realize your feelings aren't there.
Right. And certainly the relationship of parents with kids, by and large, has been a reasonably aggressive relationship where, the whole idea was that it didn't matter what kids felt. It really was all about how they behaved. And that's the way that people had been brought up for a very long time. So as we have learned about psychology, through the 20th century, that new knowledge opened the door for us, not for us so much as our kids, if you're over a certain age, as I think all of us are, all of us that I'm seeing. And because I'm sharing my screen. So you young guys, Kazi and Tasmia, this would be true of your parents, I suspect, but not yet of you. You guys probably, I'm going to ask you, did your parents pay attention to how you felt as part of bringing you up, Kazi and Tasmia?
Yes.
Okay.
What?
Brother, Kazi brother, you tell first, and then I will tell later.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Professor. Obviously, because when I was a child, then my parents used to talk not to talk with me, but sometimes they were when I was an infant, and sometimes I used to do some infancy works. So my parents were very much aware of me, and for going here and there and others. So I think that my parents is much aware about me, and I love my parents, and it is much important for all of the childs to take care of their parents at the last stage, because it is much important for them, for not only them but also for a child to take care of oldest father and mother. So it is much important for all of us.
Yeah. That's another good point. Yes, between generations, children to really pay attention to how their parents are feeling when the children need to help the parents out. That's another opportunity for being peaceful rather than warlike, and for, showing that you understand and care about each other.
No, Professor, the main thing is we cannot but focus on our parents, what they need or what they don't need. So it is much importance for all of us, because we the children, we the infant, we cannot but listen to our parents. We cannot but abide by the rules of our parents. And it is much important because when they reach to their oldest age, there are some childs who don't care about their parents. So it is most annoying. It is too much annoying for the society. So we cannot create some annoying types of situation, which is quite basically, which is quite harmonious, or which is quite notorious to the society. So I want to tell to the childs, or like me, or like the other student, or boys and girls, I want to request them to take care of their parents in their last stage. Because when you are a child, when you are a small boy or girl, your father and mother were supposed to take care of you. So it is the time right now to take care of your parents when they will be reached at their oldest stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, what were you going to say, Tasmia?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I share my all things, more or less all things with my mother and father, especially with my mother. They are like friends of me, and I have realized that everyone left us, more or less. Our relatives left us, and our friends left us, but our God and our parents never left us. They are in our worst time, and they are in our good time as well. So yeah, that is what I want to say.
Yes. So I am seeing with my daughter, who is now almost 50 years old, her children are in their late teens. And, I really tried hard to pay attention to what she was feeling. I didn't have a role model. My mother and my father, neither of them had that idea about kids. It was all about, you got to do as I say and do as I tell you, or you're bad, which meant you were going to hell. It was very cut and dried. So I knew about people's feelings and about psychology. So as a parent, I tried to do everything different from how my parents had done. And it's really interesting to watch my daughter deal with her children, because she too is educated. She's aware of psychology. She knows how people's feelings are important. She's done a pretty good job with her kids. Not perfect, but it's very interesting to watch that go down the generations. The more love you've been able to show kids, the more they have, and they demonstrate, and then they go further because they understand better, because they're a step further than we were at the same age. So
I tried to do that with my daughter, and she was very young in elementary school when they're testing their boundaries. And I'll never forget, my mother and father were around, and I was having conversations with her, trying to share with her, I know what it is to feel like to be that age. And I went through, my mother and father told me how can you talk to her like that? You're not
Mhm.
supposed to you're not supposed to let them know you, and you're not her friend. You're her mother.
Yes.
And I got
Yep.
laid out
Yes.
for trying to show her, because I didn't want to just punish her. And that's what I was telling her. I said, I remember just being punished and not knowing why. I said, I want to explain to you why. This is what I have to do. And they told me I was just doing too much talking and trying to be friends. And
Yep.
that was not good parenting.
My mother told me the same thing. She also told me, I told my daughter I loved her too much. I told her that she was wonderful too much, and that she would grow up to be horribly disappointed and not get anywhere in life. She has her PhD. So
But see, that's my daughter too. But there was still a disconnect because I was more concerned about the doing. Even with she felt there wasn't, she felt I was more concerned about her achievements than I did her feelings, which was true.
And you probably were.
yeah.
One of the conclusions that I've made for myself as a parent is, okay, I did the best I knew how. Now I have to forgive myself. And she will have to do the same thing.
But, forever. I mean, for all generations.
Well, my daughter's a psychologist herself, and she made a lot of mistakes in the beginning that I had noticed, and I wanted to express myself, and I was sent to my room every time. But when I would be at her house, but now she notices, and she even says, oh boy, I know you girls are going to bring me up into counseling. I know it,
Yeah, right.
We all, even when we're trying to correct our upbringing, we still make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. There's
Exactly.
something that they need that we're not giving them.
Being a parent, that being said, is one of the best schools for learning how to become more loving and more compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the biggest challenges.
Right.
So you guys, Kazi and Tasmia, when you have kids, you'll remember this conversation.
Yeah, Professor.
It's recorded.
Obviously.
My children all know that they can tell me anything. And while a part of me will judge it because that's just part of being human, the other part of me will take whatever it is, and if they want a response, they'll get a response. If they just want a sounding board, they'll get a sounding board. And they know that. And that was really one of my goals as a parent, was to make it so my children could talk to me, because I had no one to talk to.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and I think I succeeded. They all seem to talk to me a lot.
Good. Yeah. It's there are some satisfactions and some lessons. But, I guess the basic message is, okay, we're not going to get it perfect. We're going to do our best in our relationships, and we're going to need to apologize, and we're going to learn as we go along, and that's good.
Reflection. In describing the loss of his father during the Yom Kippur War, Avi notes on page 151 two different types of weapons, both the mortar bomb that killed his father and the verbal bullets that he shot at his friend Hamish. While you may or may not have personally experienced the violence of war, in what ways have you discharged verbal bullets
Bullet.
at another bullets?
Bullets. Put the accent
Bullets.
at bull. Bullets.
Bullets.
Good.
Verbal bullets at another group or individual with whom you were in the box.
Okay, thank you. In the box refers to the boxes we've been talking about. I need to be better than, I deserve better than, I'm less than, or I can't remember what the fourth one is, but a kind of a tunnel in which we have an opinion of ourselves that we're trying to express. That's not basically, honestly who we are. So can anybody think of any verbal bullets that you probably remember more verbal bullets that you received than ones that you shot? Anybody got an example?
I think that, Professor, it may be verbal bullets like depending on the oral or effective oral communication of person to person. It varies to person, but I think that it is probably it will go to the effective oral communication, because the verbal bullets, there might be verbal or non-verbal.
So give
I
me
think that
an example.
Effective oral communication, like you know that in our listening skills, it is most important in both physiological and psychological. And for an example, I would like to say that effective oral communication, about effective oral communication, it is the most important in both physiological and psychological matters.
Right. So yeah. Now come down to experience. Have you experienced verbal bullets?
No, I don't ever have any experience about verbal bullets, but so far I know about this. It will be included to the effective oral communication.
Yes, and a verbal bullet here means something not very nice that you say to somebody.
I think many children are getting these verbal bullets, just be it from a teacher or from the parents or from anywhere. You are nothing. You will never get. You will never be able to become someone, and so on. These are terrible bullets.
Yes, those are terrible bullets. You're right.
We also, I think we all don't recognize our verbal bullets. That we have the conversations with people, and we don't recognize them because it comes up so often in conversations with someone that you don't agree with. And sometimes we can make harsh things, and especially different categories of conversation. Like right now with the vexes and non-vexes, we could throw verbal bullets if someone doesn't agree about masks, about whether you should get the vaccine. They're not as harsh as we think a verbal bullet has to be something very harsh. But sometimes in just standing up for our opinions, it comes up a lot in race discussion, because it's hard to listen to the other side. I can speak for that myself.
I'm sure you can.
Yes. And I came to unity with verbal bullets. I think Rosemary can attest to that, things that I will come to say about unity. And I think it's hard for us to look at ourselves because every bullet doesn't kill. Every bullet doesn't hit an artery, but bullets hurt. It could be a BB bullet. It could be a rubber bullet. It hurts.
Yeah.
And I think it's very hard, but if we take a look at ourselves and really listen to some conversations, it has ended friendships. Verbal bullets ends friendships. It has us walk away when we receive them, what we call toxic relationships. We call them toxic relationships, but really those conversations that came to bang, bang, bang,
Mm-hmm.
verbal bullets.
Yeah. It's a figure of speech, of course. It's a metaphor.
Right.
For
Yes, obviously, Professor, it's a kind of metaphor.
So we've all experienced Kazi. And it's not just the definition. When Rosemary was saying, did you experience? And you said, oh, never. Yes, you have. Anything you may have received and given oral bullets, even if it's standing up for something you believe, standing up for your culture, for your upbringing, looking at different cultures. You may have said things to someone or somebody. So no one leaves here saying, I've never experienced verbal bullets. You have. You did. It's hard to admit to.
I
Or
think
to recognize. I would say recognize, first of all.
that's right. That
To recognize.
recognizing the experience.
Right.
As we become more experienced, as we become more aware, we realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. You know, I mean, it's a learning process.
No, Professor, most of us, most of the people in our society, we have already experienced in these verbal bullets. Most of us.
Yep.
Everyone.
think
If
so.
you're human, every human has. Everybody. I
Right.
don't care where you're from. You have.
And some of them, they were only verbal bullets because you took them that way. What they weren't intended that way by the person talking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And others may have been intended.
Mm-hmm.
And some that were intended, you probably missed. You know, I mean, it's really interesting, the interplay between what's going on and what we're aware of going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of how you internalize it, you know, whether you internalize it as another act of war or if you don't. Then whether
Exactly.
you say it or you experience it. And
Yep.
then each time if you internalize it as an act of war, it reinforces those negative feelings so that it becomes a response and a belief.
Right. Exactly.
And even if we look at, you know, how that term we have, constructive criticism, you know, and a lot of times, you know, we say some people can accept, oh, you just can't accept constructive criticism. You know, someone may say something that really hurts you. And I think, like Rosemary said, they might not. And they consider that, oh, well, that wasn't, I didn't want to put you down.
Right.
It was just constructive criticism that you couldn't accept, you know, and it's, you know, and like you said, it's how you internalize it. But what is constructive criticism? Criticism is criticism. You might not be ready for it. Might be open to it next month.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So, this really struck me in the story when we were reading the story. On page 152, Avi shares that years after the Yom Kippur War, when his father was killed, Avi, came to the realization that whenever I dehumanize another, I necessarily dehumanize all that is human, including myself. What do you think he means by this? When do we dehumanize somebody, first of all?
Professor, I want to say something that first of all, we can dehumanize to any person, like if we it's like corrupting, or I would like to say that corruption is the main problem, because you know that corrupting with another person or another guy, it is very annoying, and it is very alarming. Not only alarming, but I want to say that it is what was Blanche was saying, that it was harsh. Okay, so corrupting is I will say that dehumanize is like corrupting or hypnotize someone.
Okay, let's hear some other explanations. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. For an example, if person A hurts this humanized person B, so that that makes hurt also the person A. I think so. That means that if I hurt someone, it hurt backs to me. I think karma is also included here. That what goes, that comes around. That is what I want to say, ma'am.
Okay. Any other contributions?
My interpretation of that goes back to the idea that forgiving someone for their actions isn't an act toward them. It's an act for you. Because
excuse me.
Yes,
because
Professor.
you've dehumanized them, you've dehumanized yourself. When you forgive them, it brings the level back.
Right.
Or the balance back.
Good. So what does it mean to dehumanize somebody?
To me, is you talk to a person in a manner to where they don't have feelings, they don't make mistakes, they are less than you.
Okay.
You don't realize, you dehumanize, you have no respect for them.
Right.
And I hate going back to what's that word, Ubuntu. We're all human. We all have feelings. We all make mistakes. We're all not perfect. And when you dehumanize them, it's like you feel those attributes they don't have.
Right. Okay.
And that's
good.
You've reduced yourself to the same thing, because if you realize within yourself you have those attributes of feelings and emotions and make mistakes and those things, you would not talk to someone else in that way. That doing to others as you have them doing to you, or Ubuntu, and all of those things.
Right. So the word that Blanche is using is Ubuntu, which is an African word that translated means I am who I am because of who you are. And that's a perfect place to use that word when you're not practicing Ubuntu, when you're not aware of that you and another person, you're the same. You're exactly the same. Then you are dehumanizing that person. That's a good definition. Assuming
Right.
you know the meaning of Ubuntu.
And namaste as well.
What?
Namaste.
Namaste means the same thing, basically.
Yeah, Professor, it is the culture of in our subcontinent, namaste.
So what does
sometimes
what does namaste mean to you?
It says we don't know the Muslim. We say assalamu alaikum, but the Hinduism, the Hindus, they used to say namaste, but we Muslim, we don't say namaste.
Okay, So is
It
salam
means to
alaikum?
bow. It means to bow someone, to bow and bow and respect to someone.
Okay, very good. So salam
Salam
alaikum.
alaikum, salam.
Salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum.
Salam.
Yeah, yeah.
Same thing. Good.
Salam alaikum means that peace be upon you. We
Yes.
Muslim, we follow that. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Professor.
Good.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
We're getting a bigger vocabulary. That's great.
My understanding of namaste was that the divine in me recognizes the divine in you.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's what-
it can
that's-
be. Yeah, you are right. Yeah, it can be possible. Yeah.
And that I think salam alaikum also means a similar thing. I respect you. I uphold you.
No, peace
So,
be upon
peace
you.
be upon you
Peace be upon you.
because of a mutual respect.
Yeah.
Very good. Yes. So basically, keeping other people and ourselves human is about remembering any one of those expressions in each relationship that we have. In other words, we're here together today. And so we can think in terms of salam alaikum or namaste or Ubuntu, thank you.
We have a Swiss German, which means Grüß Gott.
Yeah, right.
Grüß Gott. It means
Grüß Gott.
I'm greeting the divine in you.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Greeting God, Grüß Gott.
Grüß
Yeah.
Gott.
Grüß Gott.
But it's really the elder people who are using it. The young people, they don't use this anymore.
Right. But they were all very powerful expressions. And it doesn't matter which. Is there one in English? It's not.
I can't think of one.
I can't think of one either. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
What's wrong with the English language?
Yeah,
the English
exactly.
language is so mixed up. I mean, because there's so many that we just took stuff from everybody else.
So did every other language.
So,
Yeah.
and
You just didn't fill in for that one.
yeah, we might as well use somebody else's.
Yeah, we got a whole bunch to choose from there.
Yeah.
And you're right, English is a very acquisitive language. It takes from other languages, but so do other languages.
And,
Every,
well,
la-
I think in
every
English,
language.
we are very, the individual is more important than the group when we're trying to express ourselves. So we aren't all that inclusive as we claim to be or would like to. I certainly would like to be.
Yeah.
And I find it hard in English. I find it much easier in other languages to find words that make sense
Mhm.
of how feelings are.
Right.
How deep feelings are.
Yeah.
When I was, you know,
English is not real good at talking about feelings.
no, when
That's true.
I was taking Greek and I found out how many words there were for different kinds of love, I was just flabbergasted. You know, in English, you got love, adore, like. I mean,
Yeah.
so
That's true. That this is not one of the strong points of English. And
But Professor,
yeah,
besides English, we have to practice the Chinese language because you know about China, it's developing day by day. So it is most important for all of us to acquire or learn the Chinese language because it is much important for all of us with the non-native English speakers or the native English speakers and it is most important because if we know a multi-language, especially the Chinese language, it will be most helpful for all of us to talk with. Even if you go to in China, then even if I go in China, then other persons in go in China, then he or she will able to connect with the Chinese people in Chinese language, you know.
That's right. In China is one of the large languages of the world. Yep.
We do have an English word for it. I looked it up.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
We don't have a greeting, and really Ubuntu isn't a greeting. It's
Right.
a word. It's humanity.
oh,
That
okay.
is the English word. And
Okay.
when I looked it up, and now as far as a greeting, I guess we may not have a specific greeting that has that in it. But even in Ubuntu, you don't go and say Ubuntu, you know, this is someone's word.
Right.
So, no, yeah, we're not that bad off.
All
We
right.
do have a word for humanity.
Well,
Okay,
we
and-
say,
Just like that's
No,
what it translates to.
Blanche, do you find any word of dehumanize?
Dehumanize? A word
Yeah.
for it?
Objectify.
Objectify. Yeah.
we do
Okay.
say bless you.
What?
We do say bless you.
We do. You're right.
So
Yes.
it can have different meanings sometimes, but
Mhm. Like
Yeah, it depends. It
When-
have some different meanings. Yeah.
when I moved to the South, I learned, bless your heart.
your dear little
But
heart.
that's a negative.
I know it is.
Oh, I don't
Yes.
want anybody to say that to me.
That's a verbal bullet.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it can be.
I've learned that.
I've never.
So did I. Yep.
They
So,
use that a lot when I moved down
On
here.
that puzzling note, thank you.
Okay,
all.
we don't want to say any types of verbal bullets now, so it will be harsh and it will be much you know, it will be a naughty thing for all of us. So I don't want to like to say any verbal bullets, and would like to request all of you to don't want to say any verbal bullets. Thank you.
Kazi, Lisa sent you a chat
Yes.
and entry about a television show that you
There is
might.
a science fiction television show in America called Firefly. And in it, Chinese is very, very important. But it's science fiction. It's in the universe, not in the world that we're in. But it's fascinating because they use a lot of Chinese
All right.
in it.
Is it
So
a good
it's
show?
a book. No,
I-
it's
I
a live
know.
streaming.
It's a TV show.
It's a television show.
Okay,
And
okay.
it's on, you could get it on streaming. We could get it on Netflix or Hulu. I have it on DVD because my daughter knew the creator, and so she gave me the DVD.
No, Lisa, sometimes I used to see sometimes I like to see some Chinese drama or some Chinese video and Chinese Pinyin or Hanzi, which is
Right.
most important to learn, because you know about the Chinese the numbers, or the Chinese the Hanzi writing on the Pinyin writing. So I think that it is most important. It is most important for all of us to learn the. Sorry.
And
I'm trying to
Anne-Marie
say
is coming.
I'm trying to say goodbye to Anne Marie.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so
Okay,
Kathy,
bye bye.
Who's
Because
leaving?
I have to leave very early tomorrow morning,
Oh,
and we are already having 7:30.
okay. Wow, that is
Okay,
early.
okay.
Tomorrow is flying day for young people. They can go on a plane.
Oh,
And Radio Chico is also there. I'm
okay.
joining them.
Anna Mary, I have sent a mail to your radio.
I
Chico.
already replied.
Okay, okay. Okay, I don't see. I
Okay,
have
fast.
I haven't seen the mail, so I have told you.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I already
So-
replied to you. Okay.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
so
Bye.
namaste.
Bye. Take care.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Salam alaikum.
Okay, salam alaikum.
Kazi, Kazi,
Bye-bye.
this television show is American,
Okay.
but they use Chinese in interesting ways to either talk to each other when they don't want other people to understand what they're saying, or sometimes they use the bad words that we would not want to say on television. They use Chinese words instead. So I thought you might enjoy seeing that if you get a chance.
Okay. Obviously, thank you, Lisa. And I will obviously try myself the best to watch the television premiere show in Chinese in order to improve my Chinese in a better way. Therefore, I have.
You will learn some slang terms if you learn your Chinese from them. But it's a fascinating American television show.
Sounds good.
Yeah, obviously, but you know that I have already learned about the HSK1, but I haven't do the course of HSK2 or the advanced level, because there are quite advanced levels. So now I have already done a course of HSK1 of 2 months, and I have already secure or obtained myself an online degree. An online certificate from a Chinese institution in my country.
Nice.
So it is under the Dhaka University of Dhaka, at Confucius Institution. And in the Confucius Institution, I have already taken the online certificate of Chinese language of HSK1, and I have already secured about not A+, but grade A of Chinese language. And I think that I will do better in future if I progress myself or proceed myself a long way. Thank you.
Okay.
Have
Have
a
a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, thank you very much. And today's session, and though I have my exam tomorrow, but the today's session I liked with all of you, and gain something new ideas and information, and so know something new ideas and thoughts. And I think that I'm very much pleased with all of you, and I'm very much glad to all of you to know something new ideas, and to inform you the salam alaikum or namaste or others, which is most of the foreigners or most of the Americans or Canadians or Australians or Europeans don't know about the greetings of our Muslims or the Hindus or others religions. So I think that it is much most important for all of us to know the greetings of the religion, so that we can able to talk with other person in a very accurate way, or in a very good behaved or well behaved manner, in a etiquette. We should learn the etiquette and manner, because etiquette and manner is much important for all of us to talk with another person, and it will help us a lot to enrich our vocabulary skills and others. So far, I think so. Yeah.
Thank you very
do
much.
well on your exams.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you.
We're
thank
wishing you good
yeah.
experience, and salam alaikum.
Alaikum.
Okay,
Bye.
Walaikum salam.